All right. Well, good morning, Chairman. How's it
Good
going?
morning.
Good morning.
Another, as Mason would say, another day, another road to Tone Town. This week, we're going to be talking kind of something that is, at least for me, something that I neglect a lot. It's kind of like pedalboard maintenance, the do's and don'ts of maintaining your equipment. I mean, we invest so much money in gear that, sometimes we throw it all in a grocery bag and we take it to the gig and then we wonder why something doesn't work. I mean, when it comes down to it. So I'm really curious if you guys have any tips or personal use or things you've seen, that we can talk about. I've made some slides for some recommendations. They just kind of go over, some stuff that I use. The guys will also chime in and we'll kind of give you some maintenance, pull off on the side of the road, the rest stop, that vending machine of things you need to kind of keep your rig, 100%, because we all know as musicians, stuff happens, things break, and it's always fun when things break and then people are looking at you like, what the heck? So I'm excited for this topic and to kind of just see what happens. So yeah. Well, I had some diagrams I'll share real quick. If you are listening, you're just going to have to envision these. You're just going to have to envision
or head over to YouTube
graphics that I made.
And you'll be able to have Brian's enriched graphics.
Yeah, the tube. All right, so I have a couple. Yeah.
Look at these diagrams.
So if you are on YouTube, I got some QR codes. You can
just get my camera out here so I can scan these QR codes.
Whoa, is this a Tone Windex?
No, so this is so I like it because it's called the Music Nomad. It's just a guitar cleaner. It's an all-in-one. It smells like Kool-Aid. It's the funniest thing. And I love it because I like Kool-Aid. I freaking
so
this is like my childhood in a bottle.
You can
don't drink it. Yeah. But you can clean your guitar pedal. Not guitar pedal. You can clean your guitars. That's a big thing too. Is like people are like, oh, my stuff is dirty and my whatever. It's like maintenance on keeping stuff clean. You got if you scan these codes, it will take you to a direct link of these products. My biggest one and my favorite one is the Tone Brush, which I got the name from Mason, obviously, but something that you're going to clean off the knobs and everything, as well as like a toolkit. So I'm curious if you guys have anything like this. I just would love to hear from you guys. Like what are your recommendations for types of tools to have, from soldering irons? I've seen mini soldering irons. I've seen a lot of different stuff, but I'm curious if either of you have any input or suggestions or your go-to items. So whoever would like to start.
I don't have too many, so I'll quickly get mine out of the way, but I think one of my favorite tools to have around if I'm working on a setup or needing to change something on the board is I always use a flat metal ruler to break the connection between Velcro or some sort of wedge to pop dual lock pedals off of a board. That's probably the one I like using the most. And I have to say it's the most satisfying when you can just do a clean sweep with a metal ruler and it takes off like a PBC 10, something that is usually big and really hard to get off a board, and you're just making it easy.
Yeah.
You kind of feel like a bit of a champion. And all you're doing is breaking Velcro. It's not really something to get excited about, but here I am. I love it. So that's probably my favorite one. And then the other, I would say, like my top two, the other is just one of those little battery-powered screwdrivers or drills, with a few different assorted bits. So if I need to take the back of a pedal, I don't have to just do it by hand. And I know it only saves probably like 15 seconds, but again, it feels really good just taking out a little drill and quickly just saving a bit of time and getting that thing off. So those are probably my top two favorite. I'll stop there. Okay. Mason, take it away.
Well, I would say going hand in hand with your cleaner, I think that a different type of cleaner for the electronic part of the pedals with Deoxit D5 is one of the, I would say, the most important elixirs of tone.
Yeah.
It's not whiskey. It is.
Also, don't drink it.
Yeah. Yeah, don't drink Deoxit D5 or huff Deoxit D5 because it is in an aerosol can. And that stuff is incredible. And it is advisable that you use Deoxit in all of your inputs and outputs on your pedals, including your DC jack. You can be fairly liberal with it. One thing I do recommend that you do is after you spray it, let's say in a 1/4-inch jack, you want to work it in with a plug a few times to make sure that it's, touching all the contacts and it's being worked in. I should also say, just as an aside to this, that WD-40 is not a contact cleaner. I've seen some people say, well, I sprayed down my pedals, as you've said, with WD-40.
That's horrible.
And that is not a contact cleaner, and that can cause some or pose some risks to your pedals. That is a lubricant for, like your door hinges, or it has various applications, none of which are related to guitar pedals. So I would say just an aside on that. And the Deoxit, there's many different versions of it and concentrations. I think the most standard for our purposes as guitar players and bass players and pedal enthusiasts would be Deoxit D5. So highly recommend that you have a can of that. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it from Guitar Center. You can get it from Sweetwater. Most places where they sell, musical instruments would generally sell this product.
Also a crackly pot. That's a awesome one for Deoxit. Spray it in a guitar pot if it's crackling and turn it back and forth a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Miracle.
And Deoxit not only cleans those sorts of things, but protects it beyond the cleaning. And so it's a nice way just to ensure, it's a great insurance policy to have just on your rig. I think they're somewhere between maybe $12 to $15 a can. And even with the amount that I use it, it's probably lasts, I don't know, a year, close to that, 8 months.
Yeah. Cool.
Secondly, I don't use the ruler that Grant uses, but I use an upholstery crowbar, which is a plastic crowbar. And that is extremely effective also at removing dual lock or some of the more hardcore Velcros that are out there, and it's really great because it doesn't risk any damage to the pane of your pedals because it's plastic. The other thing is that you can often get them at an auto parts store or on Amazon, and there's often an assortment of upholstery crowbars that have different sorts of profiles and different sorts of angles. So, some of those tight places where ordinarily it might be difficult to access the pedal, there's a lot of different ways that you can use the upholstery crowbar to kind of wedge in there and be able to get some leverage to pop some pedals off. So that's another thing that I would say is incredibly important that I always have on hand, in addition to, what Grant said. I have a Hitachi electric screwdriver that I use all the time. And it's a fairly compact one that has a couple of different profile positions that you can adjust the handle to depending on what you're trying to unscrew or screw down. And one other thing, I know this is exceeding the limit, is I always keep either like a magnetic dish or some sort of receptacle for screws and parts.
Yeah.
Because often when you're unscrewing pedals, you will end up with like lost screws or just like, so I always have exactly what Brian's holding up on YouTube if you're watching there. And it is magnetic, and so all of your screws will just stick right to it. This is presuming that they're steel.
I only use gold over at Goodwood Audio, so sorry guys.
So that's a really important thing, just to kind of make sure that you don't lose anybody's stuff. I actually have a bunch of different screw sizes for pedals on hand, because invariably you will lose one here and there, but this will really cut down on the possibility of that. So those are a few things that I think are must-haves.
Good list.
Yeah, I like that. I really like that. I think that's a big part of prepping to go to a gig or whatever you're doing is you kind of like to do the keys, wallet, phone check like before you leave the house. But I do it all the time too, and especially because we only have one car. So if I have the keys and I go to work with my coworker, I'm screwed because my wife is.
I've done that to my wife before.
45 minutes away.
Yeah.
So I literally took a photo. Family. I was like, and then she was just like, I have so many places to go. But it's the same thing when it comes to like gears. I mean, like strings, having those types like, the tools that have like an Allen, a Phillips, a flat, like, because nowadays there are some pedal companies that have like the Allen, or not Allen. It's not an Allen key. It's is it called the torque bit? Yeah, the hex, the torque bit, like it's like those. I'm like, come on, like it gets annoying, but I understand why they look beautiful, but not practical. So getting a type of tool that can do that, or having like I have this Allen tool somewhere around here, but it has like it's all folds down. It's kind of like a Swiss Army knife, kind of looks like that, but it's a Leatherman keys. So. Yeah, it's like there's just so many different kinds of things that like you might not think about it, but like in the moment you're like, oh shoot. Even down to like, and this sounds like when I was making the diagrams, I was like, should I put like those cheap little $30 like plug into the wall like soldering irons? Like I remember having to go meet a client that was here on tour because he wanted to make a change, and he accidentally like ripped the plug off the cable. Oh, no. And he's like, it was just, I think they were just in a rush of getting it swapped out, and he just ripped it off. And I got there, and they had he just pulled it out, this little thing he unreeled and plugged it in. And within 20-30 seconds it was ready to go, and I didn't have to lug around my big Weller one. There's some really fancy ones out there. They're like has what is it called? It has like, it makes a little mini flame, and then you can put I can't remember what it's called. But they have like little personal versions. But yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of stuff like that I think kind of gets overlooked. Sometimes extra cables. That's a big one. It's not really a tool, but just stuff that you would normally you don't have to bring a toolbox, but it helps to have options basically when you don't have to leave the gig to go get that tool that you could possibly need in a way. So let me
it's just like a Pedalboard first aid kit.
Yeah, that's kind of what it is. It's just thinking through the things that you could need to work on a flathead, a Phillips head, something that has a hex or something, or Allen key. Because I know some guitarists have truss rods. You might have to adjust something or something. I don't know. I like this the other day. I have an electric drill that I use, but my strap, I use these Dunlop strap locks. The connector was coming off of the board, off of the guitar, and none of the screwdrivers I had, anything, was just stripping it out. So I pulled out the little kit, and I found one that like was like the perfect size, and it fit in there perfectly, and I was able to tighten it. So like little stuff like that like it could severely damage your guitar. You could drop your guitar, like just like little stuff like that to keep it going.
Preventative.
Let me pull up another. Yeah, I mean, just you got to protect your investments. I mean, you have a car and you have a jumper kit, or you have a kit in there, for a flat or something. It's the same thing.
The tricky thing, I guess, is kind of like a bit like insurance. It's one of those things that kind of a pain to set up and get ready, and I may never use it, but when you have
I've never seen this Diodario thing.
Yeah, no, I agree, Grant. Yeah, so this there's a couple different storage options I think we should also talk about. If this feels too structured, feel free to chime in. I am such a visual learner that people that, we could talk about all these names, we could spit all this information, but like, having some photos, you can scan the link, scan the QR codes and check these products out. It just kind of gives you a cool idea. I've owned every single one of these. Shamelessly, I've bought different things, and I tried different things, which are really cool. Like the Mono Creator, which is a sponsor of ours. They have this awesome backpack, the Ultra backpack. I use this for my laptop, for my interface, for a lot of my cabling. I have my receive box in there from you guys. I have my wife's in-ear monitor, headphones, my headphones, SGIs, all sorts of different stuff. But before we continue talking more about this, let's throw over to our first sponsor. Sir?
So there's a couple of sponsors that make the podcast possible every single week that I would love to tell you about. Firstly, because Brian is too cool to plug himself, one of our sponsors is our friends over at the Guitar Sanctuary, one of the most established boutique and mainstream guitar amp pedal retailers in the entire country, and also consequently house our good friend Brian Omilion. And if you would like to have a pedal board built, if you would like to buy some amazing gear, whether it be, again, really cool, unique boutique stuff, or a Fender custom shop, or Gibson Murphy Lab, this is something that you would be able to get over from the Guitar Sanctuary, and then be able to have Brian put it together for you over at Omilion Audio. He is housed inside of the Guitar Sanctuary, and as you know, if you're watching this, does incredibly beautiful pedal board and rig builds. Also, secondly, one of our other amazing sponsors, one of our other amazing sponsors is our friends over at Sweetwater. And they have a new program that they've recently launched called the Gear Exchange. And Gear Exchange is, in essence, a hybrid, I would say, between all the things that I love about Reverb and all the things that I love about Craigslist. It's peer-to-peer selling and buying of goods. And it's one of the cool places where they just are trying to keep it as just friendly to the customer as possible. In fact, they don't have the same exorbitant fees that you would often associate with a lot of these third-party reselling sites like eBay or Reverb. It's much less expensive to sell if you're a seller. And if you decide that you want to put your funds onto a Sweetwater gift card, you don't pay any seller fees whatsoever. And for somebody like me, we're always buying new stuff and often buying from Sweetwater, it's a great way to make sure that you keep all the money that you earn and that you're able to then apply it to other purchases that you would ordinarily be making anyway. So check out Sweetwater's Gear Exchange. It's sweetwater.com/used, USED. And you can create an account and start selling stuff. It's a really great experience. I've already bought and sold several things, and I really, really love it. Again, it's everything that I love about Reverb and Craigslist and eBay without the things that I don't like about those sites. It's a really, really amazing service. And I'm so glad that Sweetwater has endeavored into this this particular venture. It's really, really exciting, really, really cool. Now I will bring it back to you. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you. So, all right, headed back to the diagram. There's a lot of cool different options between these different things, because both of these backpacks, which are really cool, or bags. I've seen people with these Mesa bags, carrying bags. You want to find stuff that has storage, different options. If you start throwing all your stuff in like a shopping bag, things are going to get tangled. Things are going to get broken. A lot of these things are cool because they're padded. There's so many pockets. It's insane. I forget how many pockets are. On this mono one, the back of it actually zips off so we can split it and have like a little laptop thing. But this houses so much stuff. Whereas like the Diodario is also great too, because I've used it for, as you can see in the photo, cabling, mic stands. There's different dividers, kind of like on those cases y'all do for your boards, where you get the photo Velcro inserts. This has that on the inside, so you can actually Velcro in different spots of like how you want things organized inside. So like I have one for work that has like my camera, my photo lenses, my power supplies, pockets on the front, on the back, nice padding on the back to keep our backs nice and soft or whatever. But then like the Pelican is another great option. It's not a Pelican, it's a Pelican SKB style from Harbor Freight. like $100. You can keep cabling in there. You can put a laptop in there. I've seen people fit boards in there, but I'm curious, after seeing these kind of things, if you guys have go-tos. Is your go-to throwing it all into a single bag, or throwing it all in your mono front pocket of your gig bag? Or do you have, you're like, oh, I only have my board and my guitar and that's all I need? Or, what do you guys do, or what do you recommend or see? Whoever would like, Mason, would you like to start first this time? Yeah.
Sure. Well, we're talking about going to a gig and what I would take. Practically speaking, I think I probably would be more abbreviated than bringing a dedicated backpack that would just have all of my tonal condiments available separately from what I would normally use. I think that as far as like hardware or tools, I usually do bring deoxit with me, and usually I have just kind of like I have like a really small Pelican case that's kind of like I don't know, maybe smaller than a briefcase, and a lot of times I don't even take it in. I'll just leave it. I just have it in my car. And that'll have things like deoxit. It'll have, like a basic sort of, screwdriver kit, not exactly the one that you had shown, but something similar where it has some multi-purpose functionality where it can, act as a screwdriver. It can act as a hex wrench, and then it has like a needle nose plier. I don't bring any sort of soldering iron. I usually bring a couple of spare patch cables and maybe a spare guitar cable or two that's like longer, so that it could presumably go into any spot in the signal path if I needed it to, and then maybe a patch cable or two that I just keep around. Again, if like there's a failure, I have that available. But I am sort of, surrendering to the fact that if something went really wrong, I would just be going straight into the amp or anything like that. I know that I've seen some guys now that bring, like a Iridium or some sort of like ampless option. If the amp goes down or their backline is not good, that they have an option to do that they can just throw on the floor and know that they can get a sound that they like or that is acceptable. I haven't done that. So I don't know, I don't know how standard it is, but I definitely have seen other people do that and kind of have it as an option, as far as a sort of a backup plan in place. And if things don't go well with your tube amp, or you have an unruly backline.
Yeah.
I'm currently toying around with the idea of hiring a full-time kind of roadie to just follow me around, even if I'm just getting coffee.
Yes.
Like, come on.
Yes.
Just in case I trip or break a shoelace or something like that. So I think that in my mind would be perfect world. You have a double of everything. I got a backup amp. I got a backup pedal board. I got every type of cable that's on my pedal board. I got my computer ready for MIDI programming. Like, you can go nuts. And I think it's for my level of playing, which is absolutely hobbyist. I basically prepare for like the top one or two things that'll happen, and I bring those backups. So like Mason said, I got some cables. I'll make sure that I have the ability to change my strings quickly because I'm heavy-handed. And so I'll have a string winder. And like, honestly, those are probably the top things that I'll bring with me. But if I was going to a more serious gig, or if I was going on tour, then obviously this quickly expands. And I think in that context, it could be really helpful to have like the backpack that you're mentioning with your different types of screwdriver kits and all these different tools that are available. But I think for me, my goal is to fit it, if you have your mono gig bag with your guitar in it and you have that front pocket, I want to be able to fit everything I need in that front pocket. I don't want to bring a separate item that, is my backup just in case bad things happen. For sure. But I can absolutely see the merit if it's a bit more of a serious gig and the venue doesn't have anything that's really going to suit you for backup amps or anything, like having a ACS1 or an Iridium or something just there in case. I think that's really smart.
For sure.
Because again, high on the list of things that can go wrong is a blown tube. And unless you're going to bring backup tubes, which again could be a really good idea, unless you're going to bring backup tubes, you need to have some sort of plan in place.
Yeah.
Up until this point, it's usually just unplugging the other guitar player's amp and I plug into that and pass the problem on to them. But I mean, some people aren't willing to do that. So so I would say if I can't fit it in my gig bag, I probably want to rethink my approach, but that's coming from my perspective of being a hobbyist.
Yeah.
And then I keep all the extra tools in the shop and I'll deal with a problem. Later on.
Sure.
And I think that's probably a pretty common approach. I think most guitar players are not going to want to bring a separate set of equipment with them to any given gig. They're kind of like, okay, I'm going to fit what I can in my gig bag or my case. Man, sorry, I got the yawns real bad today. And then that's it. I mean, I feel like it's unless you're on tour, and it's hard to maybe justify, unless, I don't know, you have like a trap door in your car that you keep, some 12AX7s and your soldering iron and all that stuff. And maybe some people do, but, I think it's hard, it's hard to have enough time to troubleshoot something that would require those sorts of interventions in the time that you would have to do it between a set or between a song. So usually that stuff is like, I think is typically disregarded because it's just, it's not, there's not really a place to do it, even if you had the gear on hand.
I will say one of the things I love having, which I forgot about, if there's room, and again, if it's maybe a more serious gig, is bringing along a multimeter. Because if something does go down, instead of a cable tester where you kind of have to have both ends of the cable very close to each other, a multimeter, you can test, like maybe you're running, your last dry pedals output, your compressor EQ's output, and the cable goes all the way to the other side of the board. The cable's tied down into your chorus pedal. You can use a multimeter and test that cable from one side of your board to the other.
Yeah.
And so a multimeter in my mind is much better to have than a cable tester if you're talking strictly troubleshooting. Efficiency, maybe not so much, but troubleshooting at a venue is very valuable to have. And that's come in handy for me a couple times. Mostly when I was learning how to do cables. Very handy to have it at that point. So that's also another tool that I think is a really valuable one to at least have at home, if not in your gig bag, if you have room.
Yeah, and I agree. It's not realistic to have I don't have a soldering iron in my backpack. I'm going from home and church right now. I'm touring or whatever you want to. It's just going for those places. If I am playing, one time I was contracted to play 3 different places on a weekend. So Sunday morning I was somewhere till noon, and then I had to be somewhere else from 1 to 3, and then somewhere from 5 to 9. I might bring something like that in case something goes wrong, because I physically don't have the time to go home. But the realistic of, you're going away, you can make things do. You can pull the board apart if you can. You can remove that pedal, that bad cable, or plug in a 20-foot instrument cable just to make it work until. But I mean, going on tour, that's a whole different realm of things you should have. I mean, that's like going on vacation. My wife, it's funny, I'll just say just because, but my wife would be like, why do you have so many pairs of boxers? I'm like, you never know. You just gotta kind of plan for it. You gotta plan for it all.
What if I get food poisoning?
She's like, we're gone for 4 days. Why do you got 20 pairs? I'm like, babe, you never know. And the last time she said that to me, we were stuck in the hurricane in Florida, and we were there for an extra 3 days. I was like, I told ya. So that's the kind of stuff where that kind of that the soldering iron is like that, where you might not think you need it, but it's cool to have
until you do.
If you're going on the road.
Exactly.
Until you do. Yeah, and obviously if you're in the middle of a song, you're not going to bend down and unscrew the screws and check the solder joints. A multimeter is a great tool for that. But if you have downtime, between playing something, that's a good time to do your green room tweaks. But before we move on, I do want to talk about another one of our sponsors, and that is our great friends with Creation Music Company. I have known Creation, John Snyder with Creation, them for, I've been doing 8-9 years I've known them, and they are great guys, great company in Tulsa. They have pedal boards, cabling, plugs. I use all of their plugs and everything, from their short plugs to their right angles to their mini cakes. I got Grant hooked on the mini cakes recently with them, which for their builds. So it's been a great thing. They got risers and elevation boards and aero boards and all these different types of accessories that really can help you customize your setup and different types of board options. So they have a code. It's Chairmen 15 is their discount code. It applies to almost everything. John said that there's a few things it might not apply to, some like specialty like elevation wood boards, but pretty much everything else. So check them out. They have creationmusiccompany.com. Great guys, make great products, and I can't do what I do without them constantly supplying me with zip ties and anchors and MIDI plugs and all sorts of my everything I need. So I mean, yeah they're great, and I love them. I love working with them.
Thumbs up for creation.
Moving on.
Heck yeah.
Let me I want to ask you guys before I pull this next one, because I'm generally curious. When you guys have setups come through, and I know Mason, you don't do them as frequently as Grant or I will do them, and I know Grant doesn't do them as frequently as I do them. We're all kind of we do different takes of rig building, but like when you have a client come in and you see them come in with like a pedalboard soft case, or they don't have a case at all, are you guys recommending, hey, maybe you should get this for a case, this is what I would suggest? Or are you kind of just going, okay? Like, I've had people send in their boards without cases, just wrapped in layers and layers and layers of bubble wrap.
Yep.
So what do you think, Grant?
I think we may have lost.
Are you a bubble wrap proponent?
Well, Sorry, I think we lost you there for a sec, Brian.
Yeah, I got really bad internet connection.
Yeah, okay. You were going with you were talking about you get pedal boards that are just in bubble wrap without any cases.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. My internet connection must be really bad. Yeah. So I've actually had people send me boards where they just have bubble wrap their board and like they don't have cases. And it's like, oh yeah, I've just never, I've never needed a case. Cases are for touring people, which isn't always true. It's like, you got to protect your stuff. But I'm curious, do you guys have recommendations? Do you lean towards soft cases? Does it depend on the type of board? I mean, when you get into the Vertex double layer boards, like that's a whole different realm of stuff. So Mason, I'll actually go with Grant this time. Do you have any recommendations, or what do you do?
If people come to me and they want to set up,
I'm a mess.
If people come to me and they want to set up, and they are, I'll say the first gate that people need to go through or that I ask them about is, are you going to be shipping me your gear? And am I shipping the pedalboard back to you? Because, inevitably, if I'm going to ship a finished board back to someone, which is usually a heavy product, USPS, FedEx, UPS, like they can be rough on these things. And so I basically tell them, like, there's a good chance if we do this in a soft case, obviously, we'll do whatever we can to protect it, wrap it up, do all that. We can't be responsible, in essence, for the shipping company. Like, I just have no idea how they're going to treat it. And so I tell people, like, if you're comfortable dropping this thing from head height, 6 feet off the ground at any angle, and you're comfortable with that, then I think that we can ship this in a soft case and if we can wrap it up appropriately. But usually that's a pretty good deterrent to then, be able to start talking about a hard case. So I think that's the first thing. If you're going to be shipping your pedalboard to get set up and you're going to have it shipped back, you really need to think about how it's going to be transported. But I'll say as well, like once I'm setting up my own boards, or if someone's dropping it off and picking it up, a soft case is awesome. They're really handy and easier to move around. You get, depending on the soft case style, I know Mono and Creation both do some really good robust soft cases. It might just be a coincidence that they're sponsors, but it's like a genuine comment. Like Mono and Creation make great soft cases in comparison to something like a pedal train soft case, which is about one layer of canvas and it's really protecting against scratches, and that's about it.
A t-shirt case.
Exactly. So I think if you're the kind of person, like probably the majority of our listeners and myself included, where you're taking your pedal board from your room or where you practice, you're putting it in the back of your car and taking it to the venue, I think a soft case is brilliant. But I think if at any point someone else is moving your gear, you're flying, tour bus, handing it off to someone else to move around, I think that's when you really need to think, is a hard case going to do the trick? Because last thing you want to do is spend $7,000 on your pedals, getting it set up, all that, and then day one, TSA gets a hold of your pedal board and they decide to break off all the knobs on the top of the rig because they weren't treating it very nicely. So yeah, I think both have their place, but I think you just have to think of how it's going to be transported and be kind of realistic about that. And I know Pelicans as well with the Vertex boards. Pelicans are one of my favorite ways to get a board moved around. They're lighter. You can literally drop them from head height at any angle and you're fine. And so I think Pelicans are a good halfway point of, it's not a flight case. It's not a flight case. It's more protected than a soft case, but the weight is also down when you're using a Pelican. So big pros there as well.
I'm a huge believer in the plastic molded cases, whether it be Pelican, SKB, Gator. I haven't used the Apache one that you had shown in a previous diagram for those watching on YouTube that Brian had put in his diagrams. But there's another company called Seahorse that I've also become a fan of, which is a USA-made molded case similar to the Pelican, SKB, Gator type stuff, which is also very affordable. And like Grant said, this sort of bridges the gap between maybe the profile of a gig bag, but with the protection level of a hard case, like an ATA flight case. And I think beyond that, there's a lot more infrastructure for customization of these sorts of molded cases that a lot of third party and even the companies themselves create for, foam dividers or perforated foam that you can pluck to size. I tend to prefer using the actual like padded dividers and or the photo dividers that have Velcro. And even though they all have foam, the ones that are designed for photo purposes are wrapped in like a canvas or some sort of nylon. So they tend to last a whole lot longer, whereas generally the perforated foam, if you're really touring with that, it tends to compact a lot over, a season or so. And so you end up having to replace that invariably anyway. And there's also some companies that I've seen, here and in LA that actually cut a higher quality foam custom, and you can insert into those types of pedal boards fairly affordably. I think the days of the ATA, like road cases are kind of gone for this sort of application for the most part because they're just so heavy. And even if you use sort of what they call like a flyweight material or some sort of hexagonal pattern that looks kind of like honeycomb, which tends to be much lighter, they just can't compete weight-wise with the Pelican stuff. And then as far as like gig bags are concerned, I agree that they're easy to transport. You just really have to be certain that you'll never take a hit because for the most part, they're not really designed to absorb any sort of impact or anything like that. And so really it's just, it makes it easier for you to carry and maybe offers some surface level protection of some of the pedals. The challenging thing though is, and I guess you could name this with the Pelican, SKB, Gator stuff as well, is that you don't have much room for customization of your gig bag. So like if you're going to use a gig bag, you have to sort of work backwards in the design of your pedal board, where either you're getting, the mono pedal board that's designed for that soft case if you're going with mono, or you have to build the pedal board to fit the soft case that you've decided to use. So it does create some restrictions there. There is less ability to be able to customize, and especially as you get on the larger size pedal boards, there's fewer and fewer options for you at that point, even with the molded case options. And that kind of dictates, even amongst our brand, the sizes that we choose for our pedal boards is we don't exceed the size of what, the available molded cases are, because then it, all the benefits of the weight that you save in using an aircraft aluminum pedal board like we have are sort of undone once you have to go to a road case. Then it's not really going to be that light no matter what you do. So just an aside there. I know, Brian, you had a drawing that you wanted to share that we were stalling. We stalled you from being able to share it.
No, you're good. I wanted to hear you guys' input and everything, which I completely agree with both of you. There's a big part of this kind of stuff with, like, if you're utilizing anything with a lift from Goodwood or the Vertex risers and their boards, or the Creation risers and their boards, whatever you're using, like, there's not a gig bag that has been designed that can protect that kind of stuff.
Yeah, they're too high.
You're so prone to, they're way too high. You're like, I have seen people like, it fits, and you look at it and it's just like, it looks like a oddly shaped pillow, and you're just like, you're just like imagine just smacking that into a door, walking out of a gig or whatever, and you get home and you're like, why is my Strymon encoder knob broken off? And then you find out that money that you saved on getting a soft case, you now have to put into sending it off and having the encoder knob switched and repaired. Like, there's just like those practicalities where, like, people are like, oh, for $150 cheaper, I can just do a soft case. I'm like, but if you damage any one of these pedals, like, you're going to have to, one, replace it, or two, have it repaired, and it's just not cheap, and then you're without that stuff. So I always, I always say it's like investing in good tires on your car. Like, don't get the cheap stuff, because those suckers are going to break on you. But yeah, I do have a diagram. I actually have all the cases we talked about.
Don't buy retreads.
No. Oh my gosh. So I have a couple different ones on here. Like I said, if you're listening, head over to the YouTube and scan these QR codes. It takes you right to
how well
Creation.
done is this, Brian? You did such a great job.
You're kind of setting me and Mason up for a lot of extra work here, Brian. Mine are going to be hand drawn next week.
I did this last night, so it's funny because it feels sloppy to me, but I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. I did add some stars.
Yeah, so why some get 3 and some get 5? Is this just based on the protection level?
Okay, so it's just kind of the protection level, because, like, mono is not a pedal train thickness. It's not a t-shirt case. It has protection inside.
Or maybe
it's not
windbreaker.
A Pelican.
We can say windbreaker.
Yeah, I would say it's maybe a windbreaker with a sweatshirt. Let's call it that. Okay, let's just go off of that. It is, it has nice padding inside, nice strap. It's a very well made, durable. The sides have a durable foam inside. And it's a decent case. If I'm going from house to a place, I will use this, that kind of thing. But, like, if it's going on a bus, if it's going anywhere, like, any touring person I've ever seen, they've always done an SKB or a Pelican case. It's just the most common thing, why they get 5 stars, because their level of protection is higher. I actually had a friend tell me that his car caught on fire, and all of his video equipment gear was inside of a Pelican case, and he's like $20,000-$30,000 worth of gear, which I think is cheap when it comes to video gear, because the lenses are so expensive. I don't know, but he was like, oh my gosh, it's all destroyed. And his Pelican case was absolutely like melted and everything, but they opened up that sucker and it was perfectly fine, all of his stuff inside. So, like, the level of, like, the mold and stuff, and I don't know what model it was, I don't know anything about it. I was just like, dang, that's
Pelican saves the day, man.
I guess I'm
They
not
need to
about
make
to
a
light my car and find
That's
out.
a commercial, man. That's a commercial right there.
Right?
Yep.
Coming out of the smoke with your
Dramatic
gear intact.
reenactment.
Slow motion. The
Paid
arson
actor
running
reuse.
away in the background. I have one story actually about the mono case. Super, super quick. I was flying and had my pedal board with me. And on the way to the destination, they let me bring it on because it was carry-on. On the way back, I was not allowed to bring it on the flight. Had to put my soft bag underneath, checked with my pedal board in a mono bag. And obviously the whole flight, I was just kind of freaking out and really nervous and, I just wanted to get to baggage claim so I could grab my pedal board and make sure it was okay. And it showed up on the other end. Not a single knob was broken. Every pedal was still on. Like, it was great. And so I wouldn't recommend people do that because I think that's irresponsible. But my hand was forced. But my pedal board, which was a big pedal board, I need those pedals to make me sound good. It showed up on the other end, perfect condition. So they do offer protection. I can say that, although Pelican and the flight case obviously are a better option in that scenario.
For sure. Yeah. Well, before we move on, let's talk about one of our last sponsors, and I'm going to hand it over to Grant to finish us off with our sponsors.
Awesome. So 2 sponsors I wanted to chat to you guys about really quick that, again, make this show possible. The first one, in no particular order, is Bestronix, or btpa.com. And basically Bestronix, I know for all of us, is a place that we can go when we're building a rig or we need accessories or a part that is hard to find. That's where we go to find them. They have cable, plugs, anything you need for a pedal board build, dual lock Velcro. And literally this week, yesterday, I paid the invoice on an order from Bestronix for parts I could not find. Was chatting to Brad, and he basically gave me a solution, helped me out, working with me to make sure it all happened. And so Bestronix, they're big enough to have all the parts you need, but small enough to give you, that personal one-on-one attention, which I really appreciated. So btpa.com, 10% off if you use the coupon code DACHAIRS, DACHAIRS at btpa.com. So check them out if you need any parts. And then Mono Creators, we've already brought them up because they really are top of the industry as far as cases and gig bags go. So I know Mason uses them. I've used their pedal boards multiple times over the years and their bags. So Mono is awesome if you need something for protection for your gear, guitar, or pedal board. And they do the pedal board and pedal board accessories. I have to say one note for Mono for their pedal boards. They do an angled style approach. The thing I love about them, which I haven't mentioned in previous shows, but they have so much room underneath the board. So you can mount all sorts of things that normally wouldn't fit on like a pedal train or wouldn't fit on other angled style boards. So really love their boards as well. So go to monocreators.com and you can put in the code Chairmen, CHAIRMEN, for 10% off at checkout. So that's at monocreators.com. So those are the last 2 sponsors I wanted to chat to you guys about. Back to you, Mr. Omilion.
Thank you.
Doctor,
one
Omilion.
thing I want to mention about that.
Sorry, Doctor.
My bad. Hey. Oh, thank you. Like that, I want to mention about those mono boards. I'm working on a board for a PBC 10 build with one of their builds, and we're putting like a Zuma, a UA, Dream, a POG. We're putting a bunch of stuff under there that the clearance, it's great.
It's awesome.
So I also have to highlight them, and they're super lightweight. They have these little groove, the cutouts where they bent. I don't know how they do it. It's awesome, but like they bent the cutouts. I don't know how they did it, but it like makes it significantly stronger. So it, there's no flex. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there. But back to the cases. I will say one thing. I have been doing a lot of the Creation ATA cases on some boards just because the ATA is customizable when it comes to certain sizes, whereas the Pelicans, I agree with you, Mason, on that. But there are some sizes that just don't fit in the Pelicans, or the Pelicans, it's like, okay, I need 1 more inch for this board, but the next size up is an extra 6 inches. Like, it's just too much. I get it. You have gear, we're all like, ooh, we got extra space. What can we fit in that
Bigger
spot?
board.
That kind of thing. Like, what bigger board? That's what drives me nuts about boards I have. If I have an open spot, I'm gonna put a pedal there. Like, I'm gonna find something. I'm gonna put it there. It might be something I might add a second overdrive. I might get spicy and add a second overdrive because I only use one. Right. But so, I mean, there's pros and cons. Obviously, this is fun, guys.
You went to Chipotle and chose the spicy salsa today?
No, I have to tell you now that you've mentioned Chipotle. Okay, side story.
Wait, hold on. Are you mild, medium, or hot? Are you mild, medium, or hot at Chipotle?
I'm medium. Yeah, I'm definitely medium. But I have to tell this because, we all know, I've already said it, we have one car. So I ride with a coworker in the work, and I do DoorDash a lot. DoorDash wants to sponsor, that would be great because I order so much with you guys. But stupid. I get a lot of gift cards for that too. So, but I had ordered Chipotle, and I have like this order that I just hit my recent history. And when I clicked it and it had everything I was going to want to do. And then I got distracted and it came up as an error. But I was like, that's weird. So I just hit purchase now. So 27 and a half minutes later, my order shows up and I'm starving. I'm just ready to eat. And I open and I'm like lifting up the bag and it's really light. And I had paid $25 for a single scoop of Chipotle chicken because I did the burrito bowl, but only chicken.
Nicely done, Brian.
Yeah.
So more of the story is make sure you read your orders before you place an order, or you pay $26 plus tip for half a scoop of chicken. So that was super random, but you said Chipotle, so I had to tell that.
There's always a story with Chipotle.
Well, yeah, I was just curious when we were talking spicy. If you tell me what level, Chipotle will tell a lot about a man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that I would say that kind of wraps it up with everything with the podcast for today. I mean, it's the basics of having, things that you think you might need, just little things. You don't have to be all out like you're going on tour, but just things you think will help you in a pinch. Do you guys have any final thoughts before we, sign off?
I have one very important one, and that is that we don't have Chipotle up in Canada. So I feel like I need to cross the border and see what you guys are talking about.
You've never had Chipotle in your life?
I probably have had Chipotle. I got to be honest. There's so many fast food places in America. When I go, I try and hit as many as possible. So it's a bit of a blur if I've had Chipotle or not, but probably. I'm offending a bunch of people right now, I know, by not knowing, because I think Chipotle should be memorable, and here I am. So yeah, that's my main thought on the Chipotle side of things. I think it's really just, if you think about your rig and the main issues you've had over the last 5 years, there's probably only going to be 2 or 3 that keep coming up. Just be prepared for those, and you'll be pretty good for most of the scenarios you come across. I don't think you need to go overboard. I think you just need to be realistic for your scenario. Make sure you're covered for those, and then just move on and get back to playing your instrument. Just keep enjoying playing guitar, because that's what this is all about at the end of the day. So, don't go nuts, but also don't be fast and loose and not bring anything at all to prepare for common mistakes that might come up. That would be my final 2 cents. Maybe, that would be my final thoughts.
How about you, Mason?
Well, firstly, I want to thank you, Brian, for spending so much time. If you're somebody who's been watching this on YouTube, Brian clearly he swung for the fences on this one, did QR codes, did graphics. It was beautifully presented, so I really appreciate the thoroughness of that. And I also appreciate the insight into what you order from Chipotle. And I think a great way with your permission, and as I said, you can really tell the measure of a man by what they order at Chipotle. I think that we should all end with what our standard Chipotle orders, and I also would like to give a shout out to one of our technicians who calls Chipotle Chipotole, and he had always been calling it that until he had heard otherwise. And so I just want to give a big shout out to Patrick on that. Chipotle,
Oh my
just so
gosh.
you're outed. Everybody knows now. We've been teasing
Banez,
about this for
Chipotle.
yeah. So anyway, just so you know, so I'll start with mine just so we kick it off. I
love it.
I modulate between the bowl and the burrito, but the insides are always the same. It's white rice, pinto beans, fajita vegetables, double chicken.
Yes.
All three salsas. I do all three. Sometimes it can be complicated because it becomes too moist and then the tortilla rips. So sometimes the all three is better choice for the bowl. I do cheese, sour cream, always guac. And then depending on who's making it, sometimes lettuce is like a cap. If it's already pretty full, then I'll skip the lettuce. And that's the standard Mason
My question
order.
for you, Mason: do they know you by name?
No, I don't go that often. But I know very well what it is that I like from Chipotle. I probably go maybe like once a month when I'm in a certain area of town that has a Chipotle or Chipotole, nice. Depending on who you ask.
My mom says Chipotle.
Chipotle, yeah.
Chipotle. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
This is reversing
I would
a
ask
few
you, Graham.
letters.
What's that,
Grant,
Brian?
are we safe to say white rice and chicken for you?
Well, I was going to say the equivalent up
order?
here in Canada, since we don't have Chipotle, is I would be getting a small coffee, 2 cream, breakfast bagel actually does have Chipotle sauce on it, and with bacon, and that is at Tim Hortons.
Okay.
Or Tim Hortons,
yes.
depending on
that's as close to Mexican food that you'll get in
That's
Canada.
what we get up in Canada. You want Mexican, you go to Tim Hortons.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right, Brian.
Well,
let's end with you.
Wrap it up.
Chipotole. Right. Let's hear it.
It's Chipotole. I'm going to use that forever now. White rice, black beans. I typically do chicken and steak.
Oh,
and then
you do double or you go half and half?
No, I do double. I like the protein because I don't eat breakfast typically. So yeah,
okay.
Yeah, until I see the bill.
Turf and
right?
turf. I like your style.
I do mozzarella, always guac with chips, and typically and I do the peppers and I do the corn. I don't do lettuce because it just makes it too messy, and I don't do sour cream. And I don't like sour cream.
No sour cream. Okay, we gotta end the podcast there. That's it, man. Get out.
So yeah, if you hate me, if I lose followers for that, sorry, but oh well, I don't care. My body can't take it. So
just send a tub of sour cream to the Guitar Sanctuary.
Yeah,
if anybody's watching this.
Yeah.
Attention, Brian Omilion.
Yeah.
If you send me a tub of it, I will record a video of me throwing it up in the air in slow motion and watching it break. So just so you, challenge accepted. All right, well, you guys have a great one, and we'll talk soon.
All right,
see you guys.
Till next time.
See ya.